Uh, Peace party people. I'm in about a minute early. Starting to jump in. I should have done it this way a long time ago. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to come in early to make sure I didn't have any technical difficulties. So if I did, I could switch out. But we're gonna go ahead and start in a second. The reason why I'm doing it on a Tuesday is because this last Saturday was bananas. We had a great time. Last weekend was amazing. I wasn't able to get on like I planned. This Saturday, I will not be able to get on. And this Thursday, I moved my capoeira class to Thursday evening, so I won't be able to get on either. So I had to get on before anything. Because, one thing I learned about these channels is you got to have consistent content. You can't just be sporadic with it. So what I'm going to figure out this week is a lot of people that told me that they wanted to be down haven't shown up or they're behind, like they just started, and I didn't want to wait for them. So I'm going to go ahead and end that once a week. Or I'm in my bedroom again. So again, my family has said that I'm too loud. So I am loud though. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have an inside voice. I'm sorry about that. I apologize for that. I remember one of my colleagues was saying that they miss hearing my voice teaching in class. They can hear me down the hallway, doors open, and I love keeping my door open because you never know who pops up, and everybody that pops up always enjoys my classes. So we're back. So this is an idea that popped up just like in the middle of the week. I started listening to this podcast. Shout out to Rod and Karen from the Black Guy Who Tips, and they talked about this podcast called Conspirituality. And then there's these three yoga dudes, and they talk about how conspiracy theory and spirituality, right? How a lot of times they converge into one area. So I wanted to talk about conspiracy theories. No, I did two. It was four because two I did on my own and two I did with my brother, Distolo. Shout out to DJ Distolo. So I did it with him. So if you need that information, go ahead and let me know. But if you go to any streaming platform and you go in there, you can search. You will find. Actually, I take that back. You're gonna find part one and part two, and I believe part three on YouTube because I made all my episodes all the way up to episode about 85 is on my YouTube channel. So you'll be able to find it there. And then part three and four, you will find on and part three is just me and my brother talking about conspiracy theories, and part four, we're talking about COVID. Um, so definitely that'll you'll find in any anything that's streaming podcasts. So Google Play, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Anchor, Spotify, all of those places you'll find that in there. So you just search online. It'll club. It's called Where My Killer Tape At. That is the name of my podcast. So 3.5 minutes in, and I'm wasting a lot of time already. I'm wasting the time. Today we're going to be talking about paranoia and conspiracy theories. And I got the idea. I remember Dave Chappelle once said that when he made it, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, "What's a black man without his paranoia?" And I felt them on that. Right? You can't be black in America, a black man, black woman, black femme, whatever, a black person in the United States without some paranoia. The only thing is that the textbook definition will say paranoia is a mental condition characterized by delusions of persecution, unwarranted jealousy, or exaggerated self-importance, right? Typically elaborated into an organized system, right? And then also is suspicion and mistrust of people of their actions without evidence or justification. I know the DSM-5 has it listed as a mental health illness. Synonyms is persecution complex, which you know that a lot of white people have. A lot of white people have that. Yes, white people, y'all have that. Megalomania and delusions, right? The thing is that black people in this country, our fear is rooted in reality. You know what I mean? It's rooted in reality. Police brutality is a real thing. White supremacist, capitalist patriarchy is a real thing, right? The prison industrial complex is a real thing. The racism in the medical industrial complex is a real thing, right? Really, I'm going to say repression and oppression because racism is one thing, but like actual trying to kill you is something else, right? So I want to say oppression, right? And then most of us, if not all of us, suffer from various levels of PTSD and depression because of that. And much of it is either misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all, right? And white people will have us thinking that we're paranoid, right? See, these I want to talk about paranoia. A lot of times, conspiracy theory that we see, while some of it comes from fear, what we know is that a lot of conspiracy theories come from right wing racists, particularly white supremacists. The best example I can give you is the QAnon people out there, right? They and it's funny because what I've learned, what we've learned too, is that if you do like a Venn diagram of people that believe in certain conspiracy theories, they usually believe in other conspiracy theories, right? So people that believe in lizards control the government, lizard people control the government, right? They also believe in, the New World Order, the Illuminati. They also believe in, that the harp system could make people homosexuals. You know what I mean? Like, so it's all of that, and that's rooted in paranoia. That's not actually rooted in fear because right wing white supremacists, that's paranoia because their fear is not based in reality. Is based on that persecution complex, right? And when we pick some of that stuff up, you know what I mean? It's not a good look. It really is not a good look, right? Again, white supremacist capitalist patriarchy is not a conspiracy theory. That's reality, right? Because conspiracy implies that it's a secret plan that we don't know about. If we know about it, it's not a conspiracy, right? I'm gonna stop right there, right? So again, paranoia, DSM-5 will say that it's now a mental health illness, and I've encountered some people who that they suffer from that, right? They suffer from that, right? And you could be delusional and not have a mental health illness, right? You can just be so self-centered in this persecution complex, like white people have been doing, like Trump supporters have been doing. They've been saying that white people are being oppressed, right? You have people like Tucker Carlson, and they're coming out and saying that, right? Why am I talking about them, right? Why am I talking about them? Again, a lot of the conspiracy theories that we talk about, and then again, right? We have a right to be afraid of FEMA, right? Because under Bush too, we saw Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans and all the parishes surrounding New Orleans, and we saw how FEMA treated black folks. You know what I mean? Like people are still waiting on monies from FEMA. There are black people who were displaced by FEMA, right? So that idea is that fear is real, right? Of how female folk. And now you got people that are gentrified, right? Like that's the reality. You know what I mean? But then there's this idea that FEMA sent, what was it? It was like 500,000 body bags to New Orleans, and that's not rooted in that's delusional, right? But remember that I don't know if anybody read William Cooper's book, he's saying that FEMA had sites for concentration camps to put people in, right? So, and again, William Cooper is a white dude who's racist. I believe he was racist, you know what I mean? Because the people that follow him are racist, right? And I'm gonna tell you how I know. You ready for this? I'm gonna tell you how I know William Cooper is racist, right? Because in Behold the Pale Horse, he said, this is when I knew that book was wild. That's when I read that book and I saw that part, I was like, yo, you wildin'. And this is when I was a believer, because I used to be a believer. I'm not a believer no more, right? He said that someone gave him a videotape of Jesus Christ's crucifixion. I shit you not. Go look up that book. Go look up that book. And Behold the Pale Horse. He said someone gave him a VHS. They said they went back in time to the crucifixion and they videotaped Jesus being crucified, right? Which is science fiction at best, right? Right? And he was white. And I was like, lying, you know what I mean? So because you know that those people back then at that time, they were, if that, they were original, you know what I mean? So not going to get into that. I mean, let me take that back. I lied. I'm going to get into that, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that comes from that side, the right, I should say this side, the right, that's not good for us, right? It's stuff of fantasy, and it's based off of white people's idea of this persecution complex, that they're being oppressed, right? So we need to stop fucking with that shit, right? I'm not saying that we shouldn't be worried of the federal government. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be worried of the state government. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be worried about local governments and the police and stuff like that. We should be very worried, right? Because a lot of the systems that they put in place are anti-black, right? They are racist. They are anti-indigenous people, right? Damn, we just gotta look at the indigenous people and how they're treated. You know what I mean? Consistently in the history of this country, right? But we should really avoid these ideas of conspiracy theories. Here's another reason why. Because when you listen to people like Alex Jones and them talk, they don't actually give you solutions, right? And I'm not saying that if you present a problem, if you say, hey, this is a problem and you shine light on this on a particular issue, doesn't mean you have to give solutions. But to them, the new world order is just as inevitable as the rising of the sun. They feel like there's certain things that we can't stop, right? And I wanted to talk about conspiracy theories because because this ties into talking about COVID, right, and the COVID vaccine. Um, and if you notice that the biggest demographic of people that are vaccine hesitant are white evangelicals, right? And they're usually on the right. They're usually right wingers. A lot of them are right wingers. A lot of them are racist. A lot of them are anti-black. You know what I'm saying? And so they are the biggest group. So when you do the Venn diagram again, who voted for Trump the most? White evangelicals. They came in droves for him, right? So I just want y'all to look at those things. I just want y'all to look at that. So and my point is that these conspiracy theorists, Alex Jones, they don't have our interests in mind. They don't. They don't have our interests in mind. So again, a lot of that stuff comes from there. Now, we're going to talk about COVID, right? We're going to talk about how all these conspiracy theories about COVID, right? They'll say that the vaccine was created to put chips in us, right? Which my thing with that is that I could see if the sources that said that the COVID vaccine is going to put a chip in your body, I could see if those sources didn't own cell phones or didn't have access to the internet, because all of that has GPS locations. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a debit card and you use it on Amazon, you're literally giving up your location unless you're sending it to a PO box, right? And you're ordering it from the while sitting in the library, right? Then you're already doing that. So why would somebody pay big money to put a chip inside you? Plus, over 100 million people in the United States have gotten the vaccine, at least one dose of the vaccine. Why would they want to track all those people? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, they already do it. If you got an Amazon account, if you have a Twitch account,